benefit of Islamic finance and banking by using riba-free Islamic financing tools and modes. So, and we are very honored to have a very learned scholar with us today, Dr. Imran Ashraf Usmani Sahab. He is the Vice Chairman of Meezan Bank Shariah Board. He is also the Chairman of Hira Foundation, and he is serving on different international and local Sharia boards and providing guidance for Islamic banking, Islamic takaful, Islamic capital market. Uh, he's also a mashallah mufti and also is serving at Jamia Darul Karachi. So today, inshallah, we will benefit from his experience and we will also benefit from his vast knowledge. The format of the session today is that I will be requesting Dr. Imran Saab to deliver his talk. We have allocated around 1 hour for his talk, and then we have also any kept and half an hour or approximately 20 to 25, 30 minutes for question and answers. So for the question and answer, the format will be that all those who want to ask questions, they can ask the question in the chat box. So you can type your question in the chat box, and once the presentation is over, we will take the questions from the chat from the chat, and I will direct the relevant questions to Dr. Imran Usmani Sir for his answer. So with this brief introduction, I would like to thank Dr. Imran Usmani Sir for joining us today. I would also like to thank all the participants who have joined us today from different parts of the world. We have participation from Pakistan, but we also have participation from across the border. So Alhamdulillah, the topic has created and generated a lot of interest among the participants. And now, without further delay, Dr. Saab, I would like to welcome you and invite you to start your talk. And inshallah, we will, the presentation is being shared with all of you. So, Dr. Saab, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Amma ba'd. First of all, I'm really thankful to my colleagues in Meezan Bank, especially Ahmed Ali Siddiqui, Mufti Naveed Alam, and my other colleagues who arranged that webinar and to deliver this very important subject on the business in Islamic finance as well as halal business. So inshallah, I will deliver that presentation. And before that, I would like to mention something that Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us as Muslim. And it is our obligation, being a Muslim, to completely follow Islamic rules and Islamic teachings. It is not just to perform particular ibadat or worshipping. We have to abide by or follow the noble seerah and the way of life of our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Holy Quran says, "Qul in kuntum tuhibbuna Allah fattabi'uni yuhibbukum Allah," which means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that a Nabi or O Messenger, if you do love with me, then you have to follow me, follow the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will love you. So the Allah's love is conditionalized, or it's subject to the following of the Sirah of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And if we see the Sirah of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we see that the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his companions, and then Tabi'een and many fuqaha, they were not only Muslim by worshipping, they were Muslim in by all means, by their beliefs, by their worships, by their all transactions, all businesses, all their civil matters, or all their ethics. So we have to complete all these rules and regulations of Islam. Until unless we do so, we cannot become a complete Muslim. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu udkhulu fis silmi kafa. O who believers, enter Islam completely. So we have to enter in Islam completely, not by pick and choose, that we will pick something which we like or we do not use those things which we do not like. Among them, it is very important thing is our sources of income. Basically, we will come to Islamic banking concept later, but we go towards the Islamic concept of businesses. You know that it is very much important to know that our Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was very good businessman. I read many ahadith and many stories of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in which he did partnership, he did mudaraba, he did business. There were Huzur Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam who did mudaraba with Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha, and he did partnership with Abdullah ibn Saib, who was one of the companion, and he says that he was the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was his partner in the days of Jahiliyyah or ignorance, and he was not arguing on any particular thing, and he was not fighting or not conflicting on any matter. So it was the feature or speciality of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that he was in his partnership, he was very fair, very kind, and all his businesses, whenever he want to sell or when he want to borrow, so or he entered into a then transaction or debt transaction, he used to pay more or earlier. Kana ahsanu qada'an. The Holy Prophet ﷺ was very good to pay off, to pay higher amount. If you know that usually if we borrow any amount and we are indebted into a debt, and if it is stipulated in the contract that we are going to pay a higher amount, it's riba. But if it's not the case, a person has given a qarja hasana to another one, and the other party paying by himself voluntary basis extra amount, it is even sawab, it's even rewardable. Otherwise, it is stipulated in the contract, it would become riba and sinful. So now we come to this topic that to see that how Islam gives emphasis and importance towards the business and especially permissibility of halal business, importance of the permissible transactions. The first ayah of the Holy Quran, which you can see in the presentation slide, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned that ahallallahu al-bay'a wa harrama riba, that Allah has permitted trade and prohibited riba. So Allah tabarak ta'ala ने बैय को हलाल करार दिया है और रिबा को हराम करार दिया है. So बैय means all types of sale, whether you enter into murabaha, musawama, simple बैय or बैय salam, बैय istisna. So there are numerous types of sale which are allowed by Sharia, and only one thing which is not allowed, it is riba. So that is why all scholars say that the origin in all transactions is permissibility unless otherwise told or stated. So that is why all types of sale are allowed, provided that all the conditions of sale are abide by, or we have to follow these conditions. So this is mentioned here that Allah ने तिजारत को हलाल और रिबा को हराम करार दिया है. Yes. Now we come to some ahadith of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding the trade in Sharia compliant way. There is a very famous hadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ which says that at-tajir saduqul ameen ma'an nabiyyin wa siddiqeen wa shuhada, that an honest and trustworthy trader on the day of judgment will be among the prophets, siddiqeen, truthful people, and martyrs, shuhada. So it is very, very important hadith which says that although or even if we do all these trade and we are busy completely into our trade, but at the same time, if we are doing this trade with complete amana, with complete trust, with complete credibility, and with complete truthfulness, then on the day of judgment, inshallah, we will be basically with the prophets as well as siddiqeen as well as shuhada. It's really, really very important to know that how much rewardable is that. Even it is not told that you are being with the Sufiya Kiram, with Fuqaha Kiram, with Ulama Kiram. It is said that you will be with prophets or Siddiqeen or martyrs. So, which is the highest degree in the Jannah. So, who can be with the prophets? It is really it's a matter of thinking for us. Secondly, indeed the honest and truthful trader shall be under the shade of throne of Allah on the day of Qiyamah. It's another hadith. And the Prophet ﷺ once said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has stated that he will become a partner in business between two partners until they indulge in cheating or breach of trust. It means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes third partner between two partners if they do this business, their business, with complete amana, with complete sadaqat and complete prudence. If they don't do, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be with them. So until they are engaged in cheating or breach, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be with them There is another hadith about that, Yadullahi ala shuraka ma lam yakhun ahaduhuma, that Allah supports with the partners until unless they are engaged in any breach of contract or mistrust or misrepresentation or anything like that. So these are some hadiths which were basically telling us that these are very important for us to do business in the right way. Now, it is a question that what is the lawfulness of livelihood in our matters. So this is, that there is a very important hadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ that talabu kasbil halali fariidatun min ba'd al-fara'id, that to seek their livelihood is obligation after the other obligations as well. So, like for example, we perform the prayer. So after prayer and we perform all these prayers and worships, we have to do these obligations of seeking livelihood or kasb halal. It is important that once the companions of Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu ta'ala anhu asked the messenger of Allah, "O Allah's messenger, pray for me to Allah that He makes me the one whose prayer are accepted." Upon this, the Holy Prophet ﷺ commented, "O Sa'ad, make your food halal and your prayer will be accepted." It's very important that until unless our food is halal, is not halal, our prayers are not accepted. If we make our completely halal our livelihood and everything which we eat is completely halal sources, then inshallah our accept the supplications, because your sources of income is impure. So if our sources of income are impure or they are not halal or they are from prohibited sources, then our supplications, our dua will not be accepted. So there are so many people who are doing dua with complete khushu wa khuzu by raising their hands. Their clothes are even torn, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hadith says that will not accept their dua because their sources of income is not halal. So it is very much important for us to know. On the day of judgment, a person will not be moved from the place where he stands until he is asked about the sources of his income and the ways he spent it. The first question after standing in the day of Qiyamah, on the day of judgment, will be asked that where you earn your livelihood from and where you have spent it. These are among the first questions which we will be asked. So, that we have to really consider all these things very carefully. Nowadays, we are in the COVID situation, in COVID-19 situation. And, it is basically you can say that it is our examination for us, that whether we go towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this, after seeing all this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has so powerful that everyone is stopped in their homes. They cannot do trade, they cannot travel, they cannot do anything, even they cannot meet, they cannot be socialized. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is powered by a very minute thing which we even are not able to see, and still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has completely shut down for last 6 months or 5 months. The whole world, everything from everywhere is completely shut down. So it is because of our sins. There are so many Quranic verses saying about that ma asabakum min musibatin, whatever you receive, any musibat or any problem, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing can be happened without the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why it is that? It's because of our means, our being a Muslim, or even humans doing sinful acts, zulm, and so many ma'asi. So we have to, now it's a time that we have to see that whether our muamalat, our social interaction and all these things are completely halal or not. Now we come to the third one, which is Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Inna Allah tayyibun la yaqulu illa tayyiban wa inna Allah amara al-mu'minina bima amara bil mursalin faqala ya ayyuha rusul kulu min at-tayyibat wa'amalu salihan faqala ta'ala ya ayyuha alladhina amanu kulu min at-tayyibati ma razaqnakum. So, O people of Allah, Allah is tayyib. Allah is tayyib. And He only accepts that which is pure. Allah has commanded the believers what He has commanded the messenger. For He said, O messengers, eat from the pure food and do right. And He said, O you believers, eat from the pure and good food which have given to you. So, tayyibat means which is completely pure, not from impure sources. Anything which has been earned by impure sources, it is completely impure for us. So we have to. So that is why my grandfather has mentioned in his book that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Holy Quran sometimes about rizq, that these are tayyibat, these are very pure things. And this is fazl, this is blessing. But on the other hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned sometimes that these are enemy for you. These are fitna. So what is the difference? That if they are pure, they are from pure sources and pure way and halal way, then it will become tayyib. La ba'sa bil ghina liman ittaqallah azza wa jal. If a person is pious, then there is no harm to become a very rich. There were so many rich people, but at the same time, they know that how to make their money in through halal ways. Now we come to this point that, as I mentioned earlier, that we should avoid all impure sources. It's very wide topic to see that which are halal sources or which are haram sources, and you know that for completely knowing that we have to study a lot, or we should be accompanied by some scholars or fuqaha ikram who knows these matters very rightly. But as a student, if we want to know a brief summary that what is allowed and what is not allowed, we can say easily or point out three basic things which are not allowed by Sharia. The first one is riba or interest. The second one is maisir and gambling. And the third one is uncertainty. So basically, if we avoid by only these three things, all others are completely allowed by Islam. The first one is that riba. Riba, we know that riba has two kinds: riba al-fadl, riba al-nasiya, and riba al-fadl. Riba al-nasiya is that every debt which draws any interest, any profit, any excess is riba. So this is riba al-nasiya. And riba al-fadl is basically mentioned by the Holy Prophet ﷺ in a hadith that there are 6 commodities. If they are exchanged by them, either heterogeneous or homogeneous. So he has mentioned if they are exchanged homogeneously, then any excess, I mean difference in quantity, as well as deferment, which is the credit, is not allowed. Or if they are sold heterogeneously, then the difference in quantity is allowed, but the credit is not allowed. So this is the main ruling about these 6 things that which are the gold, silver, dates, salt, barley, and wheat. So these 6 things which are exchanged with among themselves. But there are some other fuqaha that they have mentioned that it's not basically based on only these things, but whatever has that particular illa or basic counter thing, counter or basic foundation, which is that the measurement or homogeneously. So it's anything if viewable or measurable, and secondly, if it is sold homogeneously, then it will be basically that if this basic cause is found in anything like in rice. Rice is, for example, is not among these 6 things, but since it is a weighable weight, it is sold through weight. So anything which is sold through weight or through measures, so it will be considered in these. But a thing which is sold by counting, for example, countable, adadi, so then it is not like eggs, like computers, like mobiles. So they are the countable things. So they are some other views of the others Imran about that. That which what should be the criteria to include these things. So inshallah you can read it in my other books and my father's book, inshallah. And the second thing is maisir or gambling. All these speculative transactions, all gamblings, these are like short sale, forward sale, future sale, hedging, derivatives. These are all included in these types of things. Uncertainty. Uncertainty means that if a thing is not completely known at the time of transaction, if it can leads to a dispute, so it is not allowed by Sharia. So these are 3 things which are not allowed by Sharia. Other than this, and it's completely, you can see the details in my book and the other books as well. But to just briefly, I have mentioned here that these 3 things are not allowed, and besides all, every transaction should be allowed. Now we come to the separately in these things, the individuals of these 3 renders also many contracts and arrangements as an Islamic or unlawful. For instance, any excess on principal in loan, sale of debt, future sale, forward sale, sale without possession or risk, sale without ownership, sale of any specified goods or assets, sale of bonds or purchasing bonds, T-bills, commercial mortgage system, because it's also engaged in interest, commercial deeds, it's also engaged in interest, insurance, it's involved maisir or gharar, so and interest also. So these things having either interest or maisir or uncertainty, or 2 of them or 3 of them, or compound all of them. So these are not allowed transactions. Now we come to the riba, prohibition of riba, classification and arguments. We know that riba is, ayaz billah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us, that it is war against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How we can imagine even that we can do, ayaz billah, wage a war against Allah. We are with Allah. We are from the side of Allah. To fight with the riba and to fight against riba. And we cannot even think that we are part of those people who are waging war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by doing riba. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared that who will not leave riba, he will listen to a declaration of war against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messengers. How we can do so? How can we consider that? And the people are saying that riba is not defined. The riba nasiya, the basic kind of riba, is everyone knows that it is any excess on debt is not allowed. The people say that the normal debt transaction you have, it is very similar to your trade transactions, but it's also mentioned in the Holy Quran that the disbelievers used to say that this sale is very similar to, that the credit sale is very similar to the riba. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declared that no, Allah has permitted sale but prohibited riba. So we should completely understand the concept. We should not argue on this subject. If we don't know, we should keep quiet. We should avoid, but we should not argue. We should not give. We should seek its rationale, because sometimes there are so many things which we have to abide by, but we cannot understand the rationale behind that. For example, like sacrifice or qurbani, which we are doing in Eid al-Adha. Do we know that what is the rationale? Except that it is just following the Allah's command. And do we know that why we are performing 3 rakat in Maghrib and 2 rakats in Fajr and 4 rakats in Dhuhr? If we say we will add 1 rakat in Maghrib and we will perform 4 rakats, no, it will not be rewardable. It will make void your 3 previous rakats as well, because you are not abiding. You are keeping your rationale. You are using your rationale. We are using our own wisdom. So we should understand this particular point, that it's not matter of our understanding or our intellectual thoughts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala divines rules give once our logic is not capable enough to understand the rationale behind that. So this is very important for us to understand. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned the Holy Quran completely in detail, with this detail, that الَّذِينَ يَأْكُلُونَ الرِّبَا لَا يَقُومُونَ إِلَّا كَمَا يَقُومُ الَّذِي يَتَخَبَّطُهُ الشَّيْطَانُ مِنَ الْمَسِّ ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا الْبَيْعُ مِثْلُ الرِّبَا وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا فَمَنْ جَاءَهُ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِنْ رَبِّهِ فَانْتَهَى فَلَهُ مَا سَلَفَ وَأَمْرُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَمَنْ عَادَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. Those who devour riba shall rise up before Allah like man whom Shaitan has demented by his touch. For they claim that trading is like riba, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted trading and forbidden riba. He that receives an admonition from his Rabb and mends his ways may keep what he has already earned. His faith is in the hand of Allah, but he that pays no heed shall be among the people of fire and shall remain in it forever. I will translate into Urdu as well. الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس. اللہ سبحانہ تعالیٰ اللہ تبارک و تعالیٰ فرماتے ہیں کہ وہ لوگ جو ربا کھاتے ہیں، جو سود کھاتے ہیں، وہ کھڑے نہیں ہوتے مگر ایسے جن کو شیطان نے چھو کر پاگل بنا دیا. اور وہ اس وجہ سے کہ یہ لوگ یوں کہتے ہیں کہ جو سیل ہے، جو بیع ہے، وہ بھی تو سودی کی طرح ہے، حالانکہ اللہ تبارک تعالیٰ نے بیع کو حلال قرار دیا ہے اور سود کو حرام قرار دیا ہے. لہذا جس کے پاس اللہ کی یہ نصیحت آ گئی اور وہ سمجھ گیا اور رک گیا، تو جو گزر گیا سابق میں تو اس کا معاملہ اللہ تعالیٰ کے سپرد ہے. لیکن اگر جو دوبارہ یہ کام کرے گا آئندہ تو وہ لوگ دوزخی ہوں گے اور اس میں ہمیشہ ہمیشہ رہیں گے. یا ایھا الذین آمنوا اتقوا اللہ وذروا ما بقی من الربا ان کنتم مؤمنین فإن لم تفعلوا فأذنوا بحرب من اللہ ورسولہ وإن تبتم فلکم رؤوس اموالکم لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون. یعنی کہ اے وہ لوگوں، اے ایمانداروں، اے مومنوں، اے وہ لوگ جو ایمان لے کر آئے، اللہ تعالیٰ سے ڈرو اور چھوڑ دو جو بھی ربا میں سے رہ گیا ہو، چاہے تھوڑا ہی کیوں نہ ہو، سب چھوڑ دو. ان کنتم مومنین، اگر تم مومن ہو، اگر مومن ہو تو تمہیں چھوڑنا پڑے گا. فإن لم تفعلوا، لیکن اگر تم ایسا نہ کرو، فأذنوا بحرب من اللہ ورسولہ، تو اللہ تعالیٰ کی اور رسول کی طرف سے اعلان جنگ سن. وَإِن تُبْتُمْ، اور اگر تم توبہ کر لو تو فَلَكُمْ رُؤُوسُ أَمْوَالِكُمْ، تو تمہیں اگر تم نے کوئی قرض دیا ہوا ہے تو تمہیں اس کا راس المال تک ملے گا. لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون، نہ تم کسی کے ساتھ ظلم کرو اور نہ تمہارے ساتھ ظلم کیا جائے. Oh, you believe, fear Allah and give up what remains of your demand of interest, if you are indeed a believer. If you do not, then you are warned of the declaration of war from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if you turn back, you shall have your principle. Deal not justly, and you should not be dealt with unjustly. Now we come to some hadiths of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding riba. Once the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned that la'ana Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam akil al-riba mukilahu wa katibahu wa shahidayhi wa fi riwayatin wa qala wa hum sawa. یعنی اللہ تعالیٰ نے لعنت فرمائی ہے سود کھانے والے پر، کھلانے والے پر، لکھنے والے پر، اس کے گواہ بننے پر، اور فرمایا کہ سب کے سب گناہ میں برابر ہیں. The receiver and the payer of interest and the one who records it and the witness to the transaction, and said that they are all alike in guilt. Riba has 70 segments, the less serious being equivalent to a man committing adultery with his own mother. یعنی کہ ربا کی 70 سے زیادہ اقسام ہیں یا 70 اقسام ہیں، اور سب سے کم ترین گناہ علیہ باللہ یہ ہے کہ کوئی آدمی اپنی ماں کے ساتھ کوئی نکاح کرے یا کوئی گناہ کا کام کرے. علیہ باللہ. آگے types of riba. Now we come to these two types of riba, as I mentioned earlier. The first type, which is called riba nasiya. Riba means any excess compensation over and above the principal, which is without due consideration, is in a contract of loan. It is very important that any excess which is without due consideration is basically riba. So, for example, money with money, it's not considered that one money, for example, particular 100 rupees with 100 rupees, there is no element of their quality. both are equal. So, for example, if one is taking 110 and the other one is going to pay 100, so it's not allowed because 100 is in consideration with 100. But why this excess of 10 is charged? It is without any consideration. It is completely without this, consideration. You can say that, for example, if it is due to time value of money, but we should remember that in the qarz transaction, no time value of money is allowed. We cannot charge any amount. So nothing, whether it's you are paying now or later. So basically, Islam says that whenever you are giving to someone a particular amount, you think that what is your intention? Do you want to make just sawab or you want to business as well? If you want to business as well, then you should do some other sources, some other ways like mudaraba, shirka, partnership, in which you will equally participate in profit and loss on at agreed ratios as per the rules of musharaka and mudaraba. But if you want to give loan, then you cannot charge any extra amount, whether this is for consumption or for production or for commercial reason. Whatever reason it is, that loan is given, it is not allowed to charge any extra amount, which is riba. We come to the second part, which is the riba al-fadl. Riba al-fadl refers to exchange or sale transaction in trade, which effectively results in charging of interest through the exchange of the same commodity, but of a different quality or quantity. As I mentioned you earlier, that there were initially 6 commodities mentioned in the Holy Prophet's hadith, but then the Islamic jurists have included by having one particular criteria, like Imam Hanifa rahimahullah has mentioned, that measurable or weighable things. So any measurable or weighable things, if they have that particular criteria, it will, any excess amount by exchanging of them will not be allowed if they are exchanged homogeneously, and then any extra amount or as well as credit is not allowed. But heterogeneously, if they are exchanged, then difference in quantity is allowed, but credit is not allowed. Now we come to Sharia. Basically, Sharia has 2 basic parts. One is ibadah, or we could say that 5 pillars of Islam, which is shahada in God and prophethood, salat, which is prayer 5 times, zakah, which is compulsory to pay off a particular percentage, 2.5 from his balance each year, Saum, fasting, Hajj, Saum of Ramadan, holy month of Ramadan, Hajj once a year, once in lifetime, in Makkah Mukarram. And the second thing is Muamalat, which is regarding the political activities, social activities, or economic activities. So, in banking and finance activities or other non-banking economic activities. So, all these things are muamalat, which we do with all these peoples. This is why that if we study the very well-known book of Islamic jurists, which is Hidayah, which has been written by Allama Marghinani rahimahullah, and no alim becomes alim unless he studies that books. It has 4 volumes. The first volume is about these worships, ibadat, like tahara, salat, saum, or hajj, these things. But the other 3 volumes are completely about these muamalat. So that is why it is very much important that all muamalat, whether they are social muamalat or are transaction muamalat or commercial muamalat, they should be very prudent and very fair with everyone. Islamic banking refers to a system of banking or banking activity or financial intermediation that is mainly based on trade, partnership, agency, rental agreements that are consistent with the principles of Sharia. So, in short, you can say that Islamic banking is a halal trade, and we are avoiding anything which has these three elements which I mentioned, like riba, maisir, and gharar. Okay. Rent and free from riba, interest, maisir, gharar, uncertainty, and other elements prohibited in Sharia. So basically, we are in the green. You can say you can see that these are permissible activities like partnership, sale, agency, or rent. We can do these things. And for example, in red on the right side, you can see these are the invalid things like invalid sale, uncertain things, bonds, insurance, interest, T-bills, futures, gambling, short selling, derivatives, two contracts into one contract, unethical business. So these are the impermissible activities. Now we come to the key difference between Islamic and conventional banking. Current account in conventional current account are based on qard or loan, which may offers following benefits: no cash return, but may include prohibited benefits. Bank may use funds for dealing in interest-based transactions. In Islamic banking, current accounts are based on concept of qard and loan, no cash return or prohibited benefits on current account. Extra benefit cannot be offered. Bank may use funds at its own discretion. One thing I should like to mention here, why this is called that current account is providing a qard to bank. Why it is not any other thing, other element of transaction like we can say that it's amana or wadi'a or giving on trust to the bank. Because if it were on trust basis or amana or wadi'a basis, then it is a rule of Islamic law that you cannot use anything of trust for your own. For example, if we give to bank a thing, an amana, some rupees as amana, so the bank cannot use that amount. Secondly, the trustee is not liable if that amount of amana is lost without his indulgence of misconduct or any breach of contract. So he is not liable. But in the normal banking system, if we give any amount in the current account, bank is liable to repay in any case. Is liable whether he do misconduct or not. It's irrelevant. And secondly, he can use that amount. So this is the feature of qard. So this is qard. Once it is a qard, then any amount charged upon any principal amount of qard is riba. This is very simple to understand. So, although in the conventional banking system, we are not being charged or being given any interest amount, it's good. But at the same time, they are using our amount for free. And they are using our amount for their interest-based transaction for free. Even it's worse, maybe worse. So I think if we are to keep our amounts on current account, so we must keep in Islamic banks to support them at least. If we are going to give any amount for free, so why we should not give it to Islamic bank at least to support them? So why we are supporting? I told previously that the Lana Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, akil riba wa mukilahu wa katibahu wa shahidai. So although we are not eating by ourselves, but we are causing to eat. We are facilitating to them by providing that credit or to them, by providing that particular loan to them, by opening the current account and having money in their current account. So they are facilitating with our own amount. So it's not allowed, because as I mentioned in the hadith, that it's not that only that you eat by yourself. Even if you facilitate that, it's not allowed by Sharia. Now we come to the second part, which is saving account or term deposit. Conventional saving and term deposit accounts are based on qard or loan and offer following benefits like interest earned on loan amount, guaranteed return, or other prohibited benefits. So, as I mentioned to you that in the saving account, they also have the no clause of saying that this is for profit and loss sharing or partnership or mudaraba basis. This is just taking an amount and using it. So it is again a qard, and any amount given upon the qard, extra amount is riba. So it's not allowed. But the Islamic way, Islamic banks investment account are based on mudaraba or musharaka or waqatul istismar. Mudaraba is that one party is investing an amount, the other party is working. Like depositors are giving their amount and bank is working partner. And musharaka is that both are giving the amounts and either the both parties work or one of them, like bank, is working. Or waqatul istismar is called the investment agency contract, as we have in the unit trust or in the mutual trust or mutual investment, that the investment agent works for us and on a particular fee or commission and manages our assets, our portfolio. So investment in halal avenues, number one. Number two, profit distributed to account holders, which banks has earned through investment in halal avenues. Other halal services and benefits we can have in this saving account also. Like, for example, using some lounges in airports and other facilities. Commercial and corporate banking. Commercial bank undertake different kinds of financing business, which can be divided into two broad categories: short-term finance based on qard or loan, running finance, terms loan, import or export loan, which is called trade financing, or long-term financing based on qard, like home financing, which is for about 20 years or something like that, or consumer financing, it's usually for 5 years or so. So in Islamic banking, financings are based on trade, partnership, rental arrangements, and wakala modes. So there are certain modes which are basically have been developed for these things to use as a mode of financing. Now we come to these modes, Islamic modes of financing and products. For the corporate financing, we use the following modes like murabaha, musawama, istisna, ijara, tijara, salam, running musharaka, diminishing musharaka, ijara, or wakalat istismar. For consumer financing, we are using diminishing musharaka, ijara, murabaha, musawama. For investment, we are using musharaka and mudaraba. Or interbank transaction, like for treasury operations, we are using the musharaka or mudaraba or wakala, or credit of sale of sukuk, like just tawarruk or we can community murabah as well. So these things are being used as a mode of financing. The detail of that, if you want to completely study, so you can see my videos on Hira Media YouTube channel or Meezan Bank YouTube channel, or you can read out my book Islamic Finance. Inshallah, it will be easier for you to go for further detail. Now we come to the financing needs of the client. If, for example, there are different types of things. for example, short-term financing needs, long-term financing needs, trade finance needs, investment and fund management needs. So there are different requirements of the client when he comes to any particular Islamic bank. So as per their requirements, their banks will select or allocate the mode of financing or mode of business which he should do. So it's not like that a simple giving qard and charging upon that an interest. It's not allowed. We have to enter a particular transaction, a sale transaction, or renting transaction, or partnership transaction, or agency transaction. So there are so many transactions of trade, we can use that. So this is the way to the allowed way. And it's not that, so no one can say that even the result is same, the price is very similar, but the process is halal. You can see that, for example, if you are eating anything which is not, for example, halal, like burger, KFC burger, or McDonald's burger in UK, which is of chicken or any other meat except fish, for example. So it is not halal. But the same burger you use here, KFC burger in Pakistan, the same taste. I don't know where the taste is different or not, but it looks like that. But it is halal. Why? The procedure behind that is halal. So the importance is the procedure behind that. If it is halal, then your out product will be completely considered halal, and we are considering. And then we don't need to do that the further thing that what is the rationale and what are the different. But we have to see that the working behind that is completely done in halal ways. But at the same time, we should not keep our eyes shut. We should see that which banks is doing in depth all these transactions, doing very carefully. And you can see by them, by transacting them, that whether they are caring all these things precisely and carefully or not. If, for example, you think that these banks are, for example, claiming that they are doing Islamic way, but your assumption is that they are not caring, so then you should go and you have a choice to go to those one who are providing these facilities in a best manner. Their quality of compliance, their quality of training, their compliance team, their product development, all these things are very nice. So we should go to that one. So short-term financing, we could go for raw material financing, overheads, utilities financing, finished goods, or trade receivable financing. Islamic banking solution, as I mentioned, that murabaha, musawama for working capital financing we can use, salam and istisna for overhead or utilities and receivables, tijara for finished goods and receivables, or running musharaka for working capital finance. The detail that how we can use it, it will require further longer period to understand each one. So just as a summary, I have mentioned here very briefly. Now, so there are murabaha and musawama. So murabaha is used for short term and rate is fixed. Prepayment discount is not allowed, or rescheduling of price is not allowed. It is used for purchase of raw material, fixed asset for consumer finance, or for consumer items. So now there is a flow that, for example, there is one supplier, and then there is a bank, and there is a customer. customer requires a particular things to purchase from the bank. So he comes to the bank, and banks contacted with the supplier either directly or through an agent, which could be the customer, and pays the price of cost price to the supplier and purchases it, and then sales on credit and installments on murabaha basis to the customer once he receives the delivery. So all the risk and reward of the bank will be transferred towards the client, and then it will be halal, completely halal transaction, and the price is paid by the customer. So it will be paid to the bank in installments. So this is the complete structure of the murabaha transaction. Now we come to the istisna. Istisna is called an order to make, or salam is, you can say that it's called advance payment transaction. So in these, the features of these, that the rate are fixed, their usage, istisna is used to order to manufacture goods, or salam, or purchase agriculture. Salam is used for purchase of agriculture and homogeneous commodities. Maturity, flexible schedule in istisna. Salam is not flexible in schedule, but istisna is allowed to have a flexible schedule. In the istisna agreement, if, for example, customer requires to make a particular, like a tractor or something like that, so he will contact with the bank, and banks enter to a istisna agreement with the plan, with the supplier who makes or provides that. And once that supplier provides that on istisna basis, that particular plant and machinery or anything, so he will enter, he will sell it to the client or customer or buyer, that particular thing. And then the prices could be in istisna transaction, could be partial, could be installment, could be advance, could be on credit. So there are various flexibilities are in that. But in salam transaction, it is necessary that the thing should not be zawatul qima, they should be zawatul amsal. Yeah, I mean that these are the standardized things, not anything which can be just valuable, can be measured through values, like, for example, animals. Animals are not zawatul amsal. So we cannot do salam in that, because like precious stones, because each unit has a different quality and different value. So they are not standard. So salam is allowed only in standard contracts. So, but it is necessary in salam that the complete payment should be in advance. Tijara is also used. It is basically a wakalatul istismar contract, investment contract, investment agency contract, in which the banks procures or purchase some material and makes the client his agent to sell off into the market, and then makes particular incentives as per agency contract in his commission or in his fee for giving out of his performance. So this is called tijara, and you can do that also. Yeah. Running musharaka. So this is underlying principle is based on shirkatullah. Tenure may be short time, rate, actual sharing with slabs or tiers. There should be some particular slabs or weightages is assigned to the client. So on that basis, the profit ratio can be determined. Uses as an alternative to overdraft facility where banks and customer partners in operating business. So there is an agreement to business sharing of profit, and then investment with the customer, and then operating business activity, and then profit and loss sharing. Yes. Long-term financing needs, acquisition or for replacement, expansion of fixed assets, plants and machinery, for buying a car or house, project financing. or securitization. So the Islamic banking solution or the modes which we are using are Ijara, diminishing musharaka, syndicated project financing, and sukuk. Yes. Now we come to this for long term. We are using Ijara mode. Ijara is a basically lease transaction, but it's not normal commercial financial lease. It is different from the commercial financial lease because in the commercial financial lease, they do not bother whether that particular asset is usable or not, whether it is delivered or not, whether it's still existing or not. So Islamic finance, Islamic Ijara is saying is basically for the usage of any particular asset which is usable, which is not consumable item, like any fixed asset. So if a particular person is using and giving a particular rent out of that, so it is necessary that the thing must be usable condition. It must be existing. It must be in order. It should not be out of order. So, and then the ownership related to its corpus, its uh, its it's zat, you can say zat, corpus. So related to the lessor and the normal wear and tear expenses, and for running expenses or overhead expenses are should be borne by the client because he is using. Like for example, if a car, so the car's main ownership is with the lessor or with the bank, and the okay, and the car's usage for the expenses regarding the petrol or its normal wear and tear will be borne by the customer. Now we come to the diminishing musharaka. It's used for the home financing. It's a detail that it's co-ownership program in which banks and the client make a co-ownership of the house. Like a bank owns 80%, 90% house, and against the usage of that property, client gives a rental out of that. At the same time, clients undertakes to purchase the bank's share gradually. So as soon as he purchases the share, the bank's share declines, his rental also declines because his client's ownership evolves. So this is how the diminishing musharaka contract works. So trade financing, it's used for site LC and user LC, import contract, forward cover, or shipping contract. So Islamic banking solution for Musawama, Ijara, diminishing musharaka of LCs, VAT transactions, and Kafala for shipping guarantees. Yes. Now we come to the trade finance, bill discounting and export refinance. Bill discounting is not allowed because it's a discounting or making money out of debt, because bill is a debt instrument, and if you are selling by discounting, so you are making money out of that. And so as the export refinancing scheme usually that is based on curves, but Islamic way we are doing export refinancing under Musharaka Mudawah in Pakistan for Islamic banks, and Salam as an alternative to export bill discounting, and Murabaha Istisna for Islamic export financing scheme. We can use Murabaha, we can use Istisna and different things. Inshallah, you can see these things in my video on YouTube, and you can see all these details in detail. Trade in most respected occupation, key takeaway. So trade is very important and respected occupation. We must avoid riba as it leads to war against Allah and His Prophet ﷺ. Islamic banking is globally accepted reality and a viable alternative to interest-based banking. We should keep our karobar riba free. our complete business should be completely riba free. And one thing which is the last but not the least is that for this concept to help the eradicate the riba from our country, only it is not responsibility for scholars to do that. It is the responsibility of all Muslims to do so, and that is why equally everyone is responsible that how and what we have done for this cause, and we may be answerable for these things with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. So we should try our best towards this particular cause and to facilitate that thing that will not cause towards the haram banking or or interest-based banking, and we should try to do focus towards the Islamic finance or towards the halal businesses. Jazakumullahu ta'ala ahsan jaza.
Thank you, Dr. Saab, and Jazakallah for a very comprehensive presentation, comprehensive overview of Islamic finance and Islamic banking. And Alhamdulillah, after this lecture, I'm sure most of the participants understand that the riba, prohibition of riba is very clear. The Islam has a proper alternative system for finance, and we can use this system for our business need, for our personal need, and now Alhamdulillah people can completely switch from interest-based banking to Islamic banking, as now there are a lot of modes, lot of tools available for converting to Islamic bank. Now we have received few questions. I have answered some of the very basic question or some of the questions that we have received on the chat, but I would, if anyone want to ask any question to Dr. Saab, please write on the chat box, and I will ask Dr. Saab to answer these questions. One of the question, Dr. Saab, is regarding the use of Kaibor and Libor. Can Islamic bank use Kaibor as a benchmark or Libor as a benchmark? Because this is a very common misconfusion, or people are confused sometimes because they think using Kaibor make transaction interest-based or un-Islamic. Please, can you answer, sir?
Yes, I have mentioned, and my honorable father has mentioned completely in detail, that Kaibor, Libor, this is just a scale of measuring a particular rate. So, for example, if particular scale is being used for normal commercial banking or for Islamic banking, so it is a particular way of reviewing the market rate, because we have to go with the market. Because if we are in the financial industry and we do not go with the market rate, so in either way, which if we are charging lesser or charging higher, or if we are giving to our depositor lesser or paying higher, in either way, Islamic banks will not exist. If we are doing any business in a particular industry, in a particular market, we have to abide by the market rates in which you are trading in. So if you are doing irrelevant rate, so you will not be successful. So for example, I would like to give very precise example, that if, for example, if you take on rent some shops in an area where our shops are of wine or of liquor, and you are going to open a shop for juice, halal juice in particular shop. Now the lessor is saying that I would like to charge the same rental which we are using to my other shops, which are for example, for wine. The rate, for example, like 10%. I'm charging there, the same 10% you should be given to me. So the person, juice maker, will say that why I will charge that amount? Why I will give you that amount? Because you are charging that amount from the wine, or this is the wine rate, the rate of rental for shops for wine. But he will say, no, I will not give you. Otherwise, I will not give you. So you know that basically, whenever we are entering into a contract, if contract is halal, so the rate could be anyone. So it is just a scale of measuring the rate, which is halal.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. So there is a question about, can you briefly tell what sukuk is, how it is, how it works? Very briefly, if you can shed some light on this.
What?
Sukuk, how the sukuk transaction is different
Sukuk.
from.
Sukuk, you know that normally bonds are debt instruments, and we know that by sale on debt, or selling an amount of uh, a, selling of any debt with the profit is also making profit out of debt, which is not allowed by Sharia. However, any particular certificates of ownership which represent the underlying permissible business is allowed to sell. Like we are allowed to use the share of any particular halal company. So it is allowed by Islam. So, so as the, for example, if we issue the sukuk, the certificate of ownership for particular assets, like for example, any particular venture or particular project or particular assets, fixed asset like motorway or airport or something like that, and we sell its share. So the buyer will become the undivided shareholder of that particular assets. So it is allowed, and even to sell at any price is completely halal. So this sukuk are these certificate of ownership of these halal assets.
Sir, there is one question about, you said uncertainty or gharar is impermissible. So one of the participant has asked, in our business there are sometimes uncertainty. So which type of uncertainty is permissible and which is not permissible?
Yes, my grandfather has mentioned very good criteria that even in partnership we are uncertain that whether we could make a profit or not. But loss is shared on equally, on pro rata basis always, and profit will be shared as per the ratios agreed upon between the both parties once actual profit is earned. So here the both parties are equivalent, and basically to enter into a particular venture. But if one party is at risk and other party is at profit, or you can say that once one party's profit is dependent on the loss of the others, like is in gambling or like in insurance or many things. So one party wants that the other one will get loss so that I could be profitable. So this kind of uncertainty or this kind of risk is not allowed. But for example, if any uncertainty which is not too much and it is on a fair basis with both parties, not dependent on the others, then it is allowed.
Sir, ek sawal, this is one question about that some people have asked, current account, if the current account is maintained in an Islamic bank, so can Islamic bank offer or give them some gift because of their current account or free services because of their current account? or so what is the Sharia ruling if a service is linked to qarz or a benefit is linked to the qarz in a
Services
current account?
are linked with the card, it's not allowed. But if, for example, all the deposit holders have the similar or same services, then it is allowed because it's not based on cards only. It's based on the relationship with the bank.
One more question is about how money market work in Islamic bank. Probably you want to ask interbank market, how interbank market Islamic bank operates an interbank market or with other banks.
My presentation on treasury operations in the YouTube Hira Media. So I have completely discussed about that how operates these into the money market.
Sir, one question is that also comes about that State Bank of Pakistan is generally they regulate interest-based banks and Islamic banks. So if a Islamic bank deal with a State Bank of Pakistan, so how they ensure they are doing only Islamic transaction or because people are confused.
State Bank has a separate department which is called IBD Islamic Banking Department, which has a separate rules for Islamic banks, and especially you know that the CRR cash reserve requirement and uh, uh, and the
SLR.
other one SLR, statutory liquidity requirement. So these are the specially designed for the Islamic banks, which are allowed, and export refinancing is also allowed. So there is no anything which is done with the central bank or state bank which is haram. So everything has been made prior to the starting the Islamic bank to do with the state bank in halal way.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Saab. I just like to add that Islamic banking license given by State Bank does not allow Islamic Bank to enter into any non-compliant transaction, even with the State Bank of Pakistan. So, if Islamic Bank deal with the State Bank of Pakistan, they will only deal in the Sharia compliant manner, and the Islamic Bank cannot invest in the T-bills and the PIBs, which are interest-based instruments, because this is not allowed. Is there any question or we are up, I think we are up to the our allotted time is now reached. This we have planned this session for 1 hour and 30 minutes. I'll just take this last question. Do Islamic Bank or why Islamic Bank do not pass loss to the deposit holder of saving accounts?
Yeah, I will tell you that it is very important to understand that there are different requirements of the our client. For example, there are some clients who wants to invest their amount with secured investment, although the rates of return may be lesser. So higher the risk, higher the profit. Lesser the risk, or very secure the risk, very less the profit. This is the mechanism that the al-ghurm ma. So basically, the profit is based or linked with the risk you are taking. So if, for example, they were investment into a particular shares or equities, so they were taking a higher risk. So then they would be taking higher profit. But since they don't want to take too much risk, they want to establish a particular secured deposit into a particular secure, very secure transactions. This is why Islamic Bank provide them a particular pool in which they have very secure transactions like Murabaha Ijara, which is covered by either security or by collateral or by guarantee or so and so forth. So, and their profit is also guaranteed because the Murabaha price is guaranteed, the lease rental is guaranteed, and it's covered as well by the security. So there's very much chances of loss. So that is why that deposit which comes into that pool, they don't have any particular loss out of that. This is why no loss or no bigger profit or higher profit than the normal banking is given to them, because the same rate is charged in the murabaha and leasing from them, and the same is given to their depositors. So if it were from the depositor, they want to assume more risky transactions, they could invest into Islamic mutual funds like Meezan mutual fund. They have different variety of funds in which different variety of risks are involved. We can invest there and we can have higher profit but at a higher risk. But in these scenarios, since risk is avoided by the customer by themselves, so this is why they are being invested into that particular pool where there is no risk or very little risk.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. As per the rules of Mudarba, Islamic banks or the depositor take the risk, but practically because the investments are done very carefully. So, Alhamdulillah, no loss has been passed as of today, but it is quite possible that a loss can come to the deposit holder. Dr. Saab, another question is about house financing. Our participant want to understand maybe a bit more about how Islamic house financing works in the Islamic bank.
Yeah, I mentioned you that we have developed that particular model of diminishing musharaka, although we can use the ijara mode also for that, but diminishing musharaka is a very fair transaction. Basically, what we do that, for example, if we see that how much the customer is going to pay for that house and how much the bank is paying. For example, if the 80% is paid by the bank and 20% is paid by the customer, so we make the both as co-owner of that particular house. Once the house is co-owned by them respectively as per their ratios of share, then that 80% would be given on rent to the customer because he's living in that house and he's using the entire house. So the 80% is given that particular, which is called ijaratul busha in Shariah. It's giving on rent the undivided shareholding. So it is allowed by Shariah, so especially for the partners. So then at the same time, banks give him an option to the client that you can purchase my shares or my units one by one gradually so as you would have the higher ratio of ownership over the period. So as he purchases the bank's unit or bank share, his ownership share increases and the share of the bank decreases. That is why it's called decreasing or diminishing musharaka, because the share of the bank is diminishing, decreasing, or declining. So it's also called declining co-ownership program. In Guidance Financial Group in the US, we are using that particular program there. So whether we call it decreasing partnership, diminishing musharaka, or declining co-ownership program, it's also because it's based Arabic word which is al-musharakatul mutanaqisa, and it is allowed because it has co-ownership, shirkatul milk, then shirkatul then ijara contract, and the third thing is the undertaking to purchase from the client and the or from the bank, either one. So to sell on a particular units on a particular period. So that's how the whole product is structured along the period.
So thank you very much. There are still some questions, but because we are now out of time, so with this, I would like to thank you for your enlightening presentation. We will upload the video on our Facebook. We will also share the slides with the registered participants. And inshallah, we will continue this type of informative sessions in the future as well. I would like to thank Dr. Imran Usmani sir for his time and for his wonderful lecture. I would like to thank Meezan Bank and Hira Foundation on behalf of IBA CEIF for joining us as a partner. So with this, thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Saab, and may Allah give you the best for this. And thank you all the participants for joining us. Do stay tuned to our website,
I would
Facebook page.
suggest here another one thing that
Yeah.
we should have once that particular webinar about the practices that how globally and internationally these Islamic banks are being practiced, and how at least you should give some idea to our viewers that how internationally and globally, especially in Malaysia, in Bahrain, in UK, different countries, how they are using these things, and what are different variety and modes of investments available for business, so as our viewers we could know with detail all these things. It would be very interesting to learn for them, inshallah.
Yes, definitely. And Dr. Saab, I just let you know, we have arranged a session on July 16th with Dr. Jamshed Anwar Chattha. He is working as an advisor for IMF, and he will talk about international development on Islamic finance by the international bodies. So I invite all the listeners and the participants to also stay tuned with our Facebook, and you can register in that webinar. That is also free of cost. And inshallah, as advised by Dr. we will be coming up with more sessions, more webinars, and more opportunities to learn and improve ourselves. And in the end, I will end with the dua that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our efforts and make our country Pakistan, being as a Muslim nation, completely free from riba, free from the element of sood, and help all our businesses and banking and professionals to eliminate the curse of riba from their life and on all the manners. So Jazakallah khair. Thank you everyone. And with this, I would like to end the session. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.